Well, okay. Welcome to the Native Wellness Institute's live power hour. My English name or my slave name is Theda New Breast. But I'm taking a language class from Trace Yellow Owl. And so I'm going to share with you how she is teaching us to introduce ourselves in our Blackfoot language. So Oki Nixikoa Nistu Nidaniko Mokoyo Sukoyi Nixista Anista, which means my mother, is Yuskriptadaki, Yellow Flower Woman, Betty N. Cooper, who was on Tribal Council in 2004 to 2008 at the Blackfeet Indian Reservation. Ninna Anista means my father is Monokini, Pete Leonard New Breast, his mother. So then Nasika Anistaya, and this is how Trace is asking us to introduce ourselves. And so I'm following her because she's a fluent speaker and I'm a practicing speaker of our language. So Nasika Anistaya, my grandparents are Sam New Breast Sr. He was born 1900 and he left us in 1987. Atstanikiwa, his wife, Atstanikiwa means kills close, was Agnes Iron Pipe. And she was a midwife on the Blackfeet Reservation and delivered all the babies around Heart Butte area till 1955, and then they made us go to the hospital to have our babies. Awalski is my mother's mother, Irene Bullshoe Pollock Cooper. And Awalski, we're still investigating the interpretation of it. That grandma was an incredible, she could live off the grid. She lived totally off the land with no money. And then and this is the cool part of this, the topic of today is transformation during the pandemic. These 56 weeks. 56 weeks, oh my God. And that grandpa, in this transformation, it's very important that we talk about our white blood or our European blood. So his name was Manly John Cooper, and he has brothers who came over when they came over in Ellison Island. He has 3 brothers. They settled around Long Island, and all of those relatives lived there, and even fought in the Civil War. And his family homesteaded in Wentworth, South Dakota, and this is what we found through tracing Ancestry.com. In 2009, my Uncle Gerald Cooper, my Auntie Carol Arrowtop Knott, and my mother and my daughter and a Chihuahua at the time, we went over and met our white relatives at Wentworth, South Dakota. So in the transformation, think about going to, whoever your relatives, whatever color they are, that you meet them and you get to know them. And I'm introducing myself. I'm taking a Blackfeet language class, and I just want to follow Trace Yellow Owl's direction. And so I usually, I introduce myself a different way, but I'm following her direction. So welcome to the Native Wellness Institute Power Hour. It is week 56. And so, sometimes for those of you in the comments, if you would just say what land you're coming from, what continent or what land that you're coming in, say your name or where you're coming from, because I wanted to share with you, and this is not just my thinking, it's the healing talking Zoom circles that I've been in person. And then just recently, what's been really cool is I went and did my first hybrid. It was so, and and shout out to the Tree of Healing in Spokane, Washington, and Kalispell Tribe, because we had our first hybrid. And so I'll just how that went was we had 214 registered people, tribal people from all over the continent, lower 48. I'm trying to think. No, there wasn't, because the border, the medicine line is closed, so no Canadians could come down, which usually do come to this conference. And a third of those registered for this hybrid conference registered on Zoom. And all the other public speakers are keynote speakers that came, because we had like Claudia Black, we had Lavina Louie, my little sister and our Native Wellness Institute teammate, and we had other speakers, but they were on Zoom, and then all the participants. And so I'll just describe it, because this is, something we're learning during the transformation, is we had a giant ballroom with high ceiling, and we had round tables that we dispersed throughout the room, so we were able to sit the remaining of those 213, 3 at a table. And they wore their masks the entire time. The hotel, the Northern Quest had masks, and they entirely. And then this is kind of the transformation. And if you're like our tribe and some of our people, when we meet someone, or even before we go close to them, we say, 2 shots, 2 weeks. So it was so incredible, because everybody would say, they'd look at each other, and before they even were which is good. It's a habit that we've gotten into, so that we don't kill anybody and spread around coronavirus. So we would look at someone, and then we'd say to them, 2 shots, 2 weeks, and then they'd say 2 shots, 2 weeks, and then this is so weird, because we would just go and we would hug. They had 2 shots in 2 weeks, and we would just grab each other, and it wasn't like, it was like a hold on grab. It was like a hold on hug. It was like, feeling their spirit and their essence. In Ontario, New Zealand, those touch noses, and so when you say that's how they hug, is they touch noses so that your spirit can say hello to that person's spirit. But that was, anyway, that was our hybrid conference. And that's a part of the transformation. I'll just say a couple things about that, because in my preparation, because my family, my birthday's coming up in a couple days. My belly button birthday. And then my sobriety birthday's next month. But my belly button birthday, I will be turning 65 years old on April 20th. I survived. I made it. And I hope my big arm over there at Salish Kootenai. Hi, I know you guys watch every day. But I want to say, in turning 65, my transformation has been huge on some parts, and not so huge, because I've already learned with these 65 years some good coping skills, some good serenity activities, some good goofy one of the things that I'm practicing in this transformation. And so, again, in the comments, tell me what land you're coming from, because I'd like to hear, if you're in South Dakota, if you're in California, if you're in Canada, say where you're coming from, because I'm going to share with you in this Power Hour from Native Wellness Institute. It's what have we transformed to? And so, as I'm going into my birthday, I decided, usually as you get older, and when you're younger or you're middle age, your family plans a birthday party for you. In this transformation, I decided that it's going to be my birthday all month. Not just one day. So I'm planning all kinds of parties and gatherings. But I really, in the transformation, I wanted this birthday because I survived. All of my 12 tests were negative up to my first jab or my first shot of Moderna on the Blackfeet Reservation. And my second shot was February 4th. And I still wore a mask. I still wore gloves when I shop. I still keep the social distance because it just became habit. And so in that transformation I decided that I should go where I want to go for my birthday. That I was born 65 years ago on the south side of the Blackfeet Reservation. But this year, and so I have some friends, Kelly Webb at the Eastern Shoshone Treatment Program, and they got some really cool people in treatment right now. And because, it's time to get off the opioids and fentanyl. It's time to get off the booze. I hope that's your transformation, but some used it for coping. And, don't be mean to them, because that means they had no other coping skills, so they had to relapse and use that kind of stuff. So I just don't want to judge there. Because for the grace of God, there go I. That could be me if I didn't have good coping skills. I'm going to go meet up with Marcus Red Thunder Sr., who has been my brother in recovery. We always work with the youth. We work with New Day. We work with Native Wellness Institute. Sometimes people pay us. Sometimes people don't pay us, but we still just show up and work. But I thought on my birthday, so in this transformation during the pandemic, I want you to think about this year when you have either your sobriety birthday or you have your belly button birthday. That's when you were born or when you first stopped using drugs and alcohol. Is that in your transformation, make it something that you really want to do that fortifies your soul and fortifies your spirit. And so I'm going to be up in the mountains in Wyoming, and I'm not quite sure which mountain we're going to go up because we're just going to be doing some healing with people early in recovery. And we're going to focus it on, guess what? Healthy relationships. So it's healthy relationships with yourself, healthy relationships with, because once you get clean and sober, you cannot objectify people. And what that means, objectify, is you can't treat them like a commodity, or you can't just snag them for one night. That is so abusive, to think that you can go out and just take a human being for one night, male or female, or LGBTQ, transgender. That is just so don't do it, okay? In the transformation. So this is my friend, and that's one of the things in my transformation I realized with therapy, with 12-step, with sun dancing, with societies I belong to. I really had to develop, I'm a heterosexual, by the way, in this life. Sometimes I think in the other lives I was other genders, but in this life, as I healed and as I recovered, I never wanted to objectify men. Meaning to use them for a one night stand or just to use them to do men things. That's I wanted healthy relationships. So this is what we're doing with the ones that are trying to have clean and sober lifestyles in the mountains on my birthday. And I'm just naming that because I wanted to share with you, if you're 20 years old, you have a couple decades of experience. If you're 30 or 40 or you're 50 years old, which is really, really good, that you made it that far, you have 5 decades. And so, I don't know, in the comments, I just like, can you guys just, for those of you, because some people, I don't want to push you if you're colonized, you know how colonized people are. I ain't going to tell you my age. I'm going to get facelifts and do all that stuff so I don't look wise, eh? Anyway, just say in the comments how old you are. If you would. I mean, that would give me an idea because I'm just looking at, who's logging on. And so let's talk about this transformation. And I was watching my little niece that's 12 years old, and being around her and just thinking, gosh, she's transformed so much in this 56 weeks. And just, she's like maturing in front of her parents' eyes and in front of her grandma and grandpa. And now they have just went back to school, and it'll be interesting because there's about 40 kids in her school. But her transformation, I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, it was so hard because, we were just so fearful. We didn't let any of our kids go to school, and we started getting them online teaching. And so with this transformation of my 12-year-old niece, she tried it, and she was, she's real adamant. She would do all her homework. She would pay attention. But when the pandemic came, she would get on the Zoom, and it wasn't her. It wasn't what she wanted, and it wasn't. And she didn't judge it, but her family talked with her, and I just was watching this transformation, and they made an agreement, is that as long as she was learning something every day, as long as she was learning something new every day, that was good enough. And so they weren't as adamant to force her to get onto Zoom. And so then me as, auntie, or like when I'm around, so I would just like come up to her, and I guess I'm speaking about her because in my transformation, my first Blackfoot name was Okstokuma, which Grandma Agnes gave to me when I was about 1.5 years old. I decided to give that name to my niece because she acts real similar to how I was. And so then I parent her from afar because she has parents and grandparents, but I'm like the auntie that comes over. So in this transformation, like an example and a story to share with you, I would first what I would say, well, how's school? And she would always like look at me, and the way she was is she would always tell the truth. Like when you meet little young kids that don't exaggerate, that don't tell you half-truths. She would always tell the truth, and I could just tell by her body language and her face when she would. And then, so then we got to, I said, well, I heard what your mom and dad said that you have to learn something every day. So I just, to kind of get the story to present. So I would go over there, and then I would just say, as soon as I'd get there, I'd say, what'd you learn today? She was so tangible. She was learning to sight in a .22 so she could hunt. And so she was just showing me how quickly she could load the .22 and how accurate, because her dad had set up a target, how she was practicing, because she was also practicing to shoot and to kill instantly. to not let the animal suffer. So like she would say, well, I'm learning how to take care of how to clean this 22. I'm learning how to shoot this 22, and I'm learning so when I go hunting, I can do this. And then I would see her again, and I'd say, well, what did you learn today? And she goes, oh, I'm learning, because she could always make good fire, wood stove, because we all still burn wood here. I mean, we do have propane, but we chop all our wood. I just was chopping some wood before we started the power hour, because it's really good heat. And so she said, I just learned how to use that log splitter. Here she was. They got a log splitter. So what she had learned. And so her transformation, and so think about your transformation, because Native Wellness Institute, we were really saying, God, this is week 56. And how do we need to share with each other? It's like a big old, this power hour is like a big old talking circle. How do we need to share our transformation of what we've been going through so that others could gauge their, in case, because you're on the course of transforming with the pandemic, you're on the course, you might want to shift your course another way. And so I'm using my niece as an example, because the last time I looked at her, and I swear, it makes me, I was looking at how she just physically is a girl, but what I saw physically is that she was transforming to a young woman. And we all know, those rites of passage. And so think about, again, depending on what your age is, if you've lived 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades, if you've lived 8 decades, like my mother. So I asked my mom this morning, because I don't know, I still talk to my mom every day, and I said, Mom, I'm doing the power hour on transformation on week 56 of the pandemic. And so I said, Mom, this real early morning, I was doing a little snow walking, and I said, Mom, can you just tell me, like in a nutshell, like what has been your transformation? And she's 82 years old. And remember, when you ask your elders a question like that, you have to give them time. They aren't going to just whip it out. So she just said, And she said, well, Nellie, because that's what she calls me affectionately, Nellie. It's my middle name, and her middle name, and our great grandma's middle name. So she said, when this pandemic first started, she said, I really realized that it could kill. It could kill people. And once I realized it could kill people, I really started to look at our immediate family and how we could protect each other, and how we could protect our larger family, because we all live, there's 10,000 of us, 18,000 enrolled, but we all, a little over 10,000 live here. And she said, and then I realized, and this is just her transformation explanation, is that it could also kill anyone in the world. So her prayers, and she said, I looked at my current coping skills. So, here's Mom, 81 years old, with her current coping skills. And she said, and I just kept reinforcing what I had already learned about when staying home. And she said, I learned that it feels good to stay home. It feels really good to stay home. So she said, so I learned what it was. It was the internal coping skills, so that I enjoyed being home. And she says, even now, and she was saying, she said, we'll want to go out. And so this is so, and I also asked her, because I said, well, Mom, I'm putting out some tobacco. And I said, what are you wishing for? I want to pray for what you're wishing for. So she got quiet again, and then she said, okay. And I said, no, Mom, because I want to pray for what you're wishing for. So in that transformation, you have to ask people, because they have transformed, what they're wishing for now. So she took a while to think, and then she said, I'm really wishing we have Indian days. And it was like, and I'm like, I want to laugh, I want to cry, and I go, well, what else, Mom? What are you wishing for? Because I think we know in this 56 weeks, we have to now ask people what they're wishing for. And then she said, oh, I really wish I could see an Indian relay. So, so then I said, well, anything else? What do you wish? Because Mom, I'm going to put this tobacco down, and I'm going to start praying for what you're wishing for. And then she just kind of said, oh, she goes, oh, in a rodeo. I'd like to go to a rodeo. So in this transformation, ask yourself, what are you wishing for? What are you, and realizing, we're all shifting our priorities. Native Wellness Institute, we're doing a self-care training today that goes till 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. So I'm also helping with that. And man, what a great group. Shout out to Potlatch, all those who are registered. Because one of, in that transformation, I heard it from 5-6 different people. So we'll start there. Is they said the word, they used decluttering. In the transformation, are living minimal, are realizing that before the pandemic, that there's just too much. If there's too much clutter and there's too much stuff, that they're getting rid of it. And this week, Jillian Joseph did two incredible. The thing with these power hours is you can go back and they're free. They're free. You can go back and you can see all 320 of them. And that's our gift from Native Wellness to you. And then we just found out, shout out to Seattle Indian Health Board, to Abigail Echohawk and her team, and all of, Esther Lucero, Annette Squintinkin, all of them. They're going to start funding our power hours. They said that something like they're going to fund 83 of them. I thought that's so cool. But the power hour is there, and so today is I'm coming to you from the Blackfeet Reservation. We're Native Wellness Institute, and these power hours. I just want to remind you, you can go to YouTube, type in Native Wellness Institute. You can go to our website. It's just the 3 W's, nativewellness.com. And you can see all the things that we have available, because we're positive, productive, and proactive in bringing wellness and healing to Indigenous people, but tribes across the United States and tribes all over, like Australia, New Zealand, etc. So transformation. And I guess I'm thinking about my mom, because the transformation around loss that we've had, we lost 48 people here. In our country, we're not done yet. Just think of the 600,000 that we've lost, and in the world, the millions of people that we've lost. And so some of you in your transformation, and I'll just ask this because I started part of my transformation is I came face to face with my own mortality. There was the transformation, and it started, and this is way back in the summer, because our reservation closed down, and we took temperatures, and everyone wore gloves and masks. And you had to take your temperature before going into there's just a couple stores in town. and the temperature reading was misreading, but we didn't know that. And so when I went up to get my temperature, it said 102. And so they wouldn't let me in the store. And well, of course, I shouldn't go in the store. And then I called one of my family members, and they go, well, go up to the hospital and get it rechecked. And that drive, which wasn't very far, just driving up, I drove straight to the hospital, and they rechecked it, and it always runs around 97. I didn't have a temperature. It was a misread. But while I was driving, and this is the transformation you may have had for a day, a couple days, or even if you're recovering from COVID. You know, if you've been hospitalized, we've have close to 1,400 of us who have recovered. You have the transformation is we all had dialogue inside of our head, inside of our bodies, because our feelings are encoded in our bodies about our own mortality. But that drive, and when I was driving, I started praying, and I thought, well, I'll do the next right thing. So let's do the next right thing. I'm going to go get tested, and if I am, then I'm gonna. That means I'm going to have to be away from everyone. But I thought, well, what if I do have it? Because I was still grieving from Leland Grounds dying, and our board member Charlie Tailfeathers had passed. And then several other close people that I knew had passed from COVID. And then I thought, well, if in my transformation, if this is my time, and I just thought, oh, I've had a pretty good life. For a moment there was fear, but I just pulled it back. I pulled it back, and I thought, so I just started counting off all the things that I was grateful for. Grateful for my sobriety, grateful for my health. And I got a titanium knee, and it's pretty damn good. I'm bionic now. And I started just saying I'm grateful I have a home. I'm grateful I have a truck. I just like things. I'm grateful that I still have all my siblings. I'm grateful that everything I learned from all my aunts and my uncles that have passed. I'm grateful for my grandparents that are gone, and what teaching. I just started doing the gratitude list. And so next thing, I was at the hospital, and they took the temperature a couple of times. Then I went back to a different store, and they took a temperature, and I was okay. I'm just using that as an example. So in your transformation, you may have walked yourself through, well, what if I am gone? And so I would how is whoever you're taking care of, especially, if you still have young children or young grandchildren that you're taking care of, is in your transformation, have you made plan A, B, C, D? I had a good friend who got on well and couldn't take care of her grandchildren anymore, so other people had to take care of her grandchildren. And then I have, another friend who was, babysitting all the time, and because sometimes there's, and think about this, in your transformation, do you want to be the babysitter all the time, or do you just want to be a babysitter for a couple hours? Because I decided, as a grandma, as an auntie, and as the older, that I just want them for a couple of hours. I don't want to have to go and rescue them from Child Protective Services to take care of till they, get 18 years old. So that's just me. So in your transformation, have you thought about, okay, so let's switch it to, in 2021, so let's talk between now and December 31st, the end of this 2021. A good thing that, I just found out that a friend that we lost, who's originally from the Lummi Reservation, that they decided to finally have the memorial June 26th. because the numbers were low, and it looked like it could be. It doesn't have to be a large gathering. It looked like we could have the memorial. So in this transformation, did you ever think about your own memorial? Because I mean, I'm laughing now because at the beginning of the pandemic, I thought, well, I don't want to have my family clean up everything in this house. And I've talked about this before in the Power Hour, is I had all my giveaway stuff for when I die, that, my family wouldn't have to gather it all. So I have all these Pendletons and Pendleton coats as well as other things. So I started giving them away. So in this transformation time, how are you going to have the memorials of the people you have lost? And I was just, because like if we do have Indian Days, or I heard they were going to have the Stampede at Colville. I heard that they're really looking to having Crow Fair in August. And so usually sometimes those are kind of the big gatherings that we have, the memorials. So in this transformation, think of a different way to have the memorial. And not to put it off. Not, just, so think about that. And so then one of the things, I wrote a will, 15 years ago. And I took it out because I have to re-look at it, because a lot of things changed in 15 years. Just as in this 56 weeks, didn't a lot of this transformation change with you? And so let's kind of just take a couple of wellness things. NPR said that 1 in 5 people changed careers. Or they no longer, their job evaporated, so they had to reinvent themselves. So think about that transformation, about how you reinvent yourself. And so even if you are in still the same job, I'm just really looking forward to, we got one of our organizations here, and they're tough workers because they deal with fentanyl and opioid and methamphetamine addictions, as well as giving shots. And they've been essential workers working the whole time. So we're having a retreat. And that retreat is they're redefining, and so that's you may still stay in the same job, but how are you going to do it differently so that it fits better for you and it feels better for you in this transformation? And I don't know, I'm thinking about Big Arm Resort over there at Salis Kootenai, because they said they watch Power Hour every day. So I was just looking when I was over there, and it was actually, I hadn't ate in a sit-down place in 14 months. So think about this in this transformation, about preparing for when you do go and travel, when you do go out, that you really are gentle to yourself, that you really caress your own serenity, that you really allow your good feelings wherever you're going. Because as I went out, and I had driven that way a long time, I would go through a little cycle of anxiety, like, oh, I haven't gone this far in 14 months. And so I stopped several places, and I would just get out, and I would take my tobacco, my pastascon, and I would say my tobacco prayer. And this is something our dad taught us. He would always just say, take that tobacco and we'll reach down and grab a little bit of like the real clean black dirt. The clean, some use badger dirt in their smudge boxes and others, but just get some of that black dirt. He said, because when you put the tobacco with the black dirt, you give your ancestors a smoke. They get to come smoke with you. And so when I had this anxiety as I was going out, I didn't want a deadline, so I only went so far, and I stayed with a friend that had 2 shots 2 weeks. I only went where they had 2 shots 2 weeks. But I would stop, and I swear you could feel it. the when you go out into new air and you see new water, just the frost has melted, and you smell the new, here I can smell the sweet pine. When you go out and you put your tobacco down, do that along the way when you decide to travel. Even if if you're brave enough to get on a plane. I haven't done that yet. I've only been driving, but take your tobacco, and I also, it's kind of, I started putting out little food offerings, and that's why I was asking where you came from, like what part of the United States or wherever you're at, because I would try to find like a secluded spot where, by a tree where there was dirt, and then I had some buffalo dry meat. I had like plain flavor, and then I had jalapeno buffalo dry meat. So I would take off a little piece and I'd smudge it with some sweetgrass, and I would offer whoever they're the ancestors of that original land. And then the people that we've allowed to come in and live there, that they also have a good life. And so I'm just saying, so in this transformation, you have to plan, because I've heard some people start to go out and it was too much. And even like my little relatives that went back to school, they dealt with anxiety, that, just having too much stimuli, too much around you. And I just heard a woman say it just a few minutes before I got on here. She said they love Seattle and they went there and it was just too crowded, so the family decided to turn back around and find a park. It was just too much. So in your transformation, 56 weeks, and because it's springtime and we're heading towards graduations, we're heading towards the weather being nice, it's going to be, you can get out and, go swimming, or you can get out and go hiking. So in that transformation, think about what kind of ceremony that you already know, or what kind of ceremony that you're going to create. It's like your journey. So those of you, like I always like that Northern Cheyenne Journey song. I really love that song. And we have journey songs, journey songs for when someone's crossing over. My father used to sing hunting songs. So he always sang as soon as, they got their horses, their pack horses together and everything. Bob Miniguns used to say, man, we always had good luck and he said, you know why? Because your dad would always sing those good luck hunting songs. And so, but think about, if you know your family song, but maybe you make your own song. It's just like, some of the best lullabies, when you're rocking baby, some of the best lullabies are the lullabies that you make up. And so maybe in this transformation, you make your own song, the other thing in this transfer, when I went out, I would just look in the four directions and I would say, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So maybe it could be a thank you song. I would just thank every part that I looked at, if it, as you go and you see big cedar trees, or you see, you might, and some of you, like, it was even exciting to go through a drive-through. I'd only been eating food cooked at home, so I was humming a little, we have one of our family songs, so I was humming it when I went through the drive-through. Like, and you say the prayers, like I was praying for whoever prepared the food, whatever animal was killed to make that food, whatever vegetables were gathered. It was almost like, I guess in this transformation, we have to rethink our ceremonies. of traveling out, rethink our ceremonies that we've always done. Make everything a ceremony. Take, when I was at Colville, I got one big, I grow tobacco, but I got big offering tobacco. I got a big bag, and I'm putting it in the truck because I thought, part of my transformation is I gotta say thank you with this tobacco, or I gotta use this tobacco to offer prayers. Like I was thinking, for all of those of you who are on social media, which obviously are Facebook now, or Instagram, or even TikTok, or any other social media platform, when you're scrolling, and lately there's been a lot of people asking for prayers. Like, I shout out to Linda Beaudry. She's one of our elders here. I just love her. She used to do a comedy act, and her name was Bertha Breakswind. But I always say Bertha Breakswind, but she's daily, she has lists of people. And if you're scrolling in this transformation, do you just scroll by when they say, I need prayers? Or do you stop and you whisper a prayer? So in the transformation, this is what when I go out and I do 2 or 3 walks around here, little hikes. I go out and I put tobacco in the water, and sometimes I can remember the names, and sometimes I can't. So if they pop into my head, what I started is just putting tobacco out for all 5,000 of my Facebook friends. I'm praying, and the new ones, that I'll get, and I just started putting that out for that, that their social media experience is fun and positive and productive and proactive. And so think of the ceremony in your transformation for yourself and for those that you love. And so I wanted to say something, because we really need to have a celebration of life for those that we have lost. So think about it, not calling it a funeral anymore. When I die, I want everyone to have a celebration of life, and I want them to dance. And I even, in my will, that's why I have to relook at it, I even said, you got to play Al Green. You got to have some Motown. You got to have, and Robert Johnson, you got to sing James Brown when I die at my the celebration of life. 'Cause I just think make this time, the words that we use, that when we lose someone, make it the celebration of life, the pictures, the stories. And the other thing that I've really started to pay attention to, because, when I go, which we all have expiration date, and is when you, what's your legacy? And so I've been, in our healing circles, I always ask, what that person that you lost, because I have very close friends who lost their parents just a couple days ago. I have very close friends who lost a sibling just a couple days ago. And in our family, we had a loss of one of our animals, and so we're currently in grief because that was our family member. But I always ask, what was their legacy? What kinds of things did they like to do? And so again, that ceremony, and I was just thinking, because when I lost my Aunt Melinda, and this is 2002, I still, I don't eat red wieners because just for health reasons, except at ceremony. And then I'd peel them. But she always liked red wieners, and so I always get some, and I go up on the top of Divide Mountain, and I get my sweetgrass, and I always keep it near, because when you keep medicine near, it vibrates into you. I've learned, I knew that, but during this pandemic, always, have your medicine pouch on, always have your sage in your shoe. Teresa Tindoy, a long time ago, she said, when you stand up in front of people or you're on Zoom, and I've been thinking, you have your Zoom protection. So then I always take that red wiener and I they used to call her Sandwich. That was one of her nicknames in Blackfoot. So I smudge it and I just talk to her because she was my other mother. Uh, she was my other mother all since I was born. All my aunties were my other mothers and all my uncles were my other fathers. But I talked to her and she's also the one. Oh man, she stayed on me about getting sober. I said this before. I would come home and she'd take me to a roundup, all AA. I would come home and she'd take me to AA meetings after AA meetings, and because I knew respect, I would just go. I wouldn't say no because my auntie was telling me to get my butt in that Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, so I would be in there. So I think this auntie intervened on me. She kept using tough love, and she was along with the other relatives. I was just thinking of the stories of I made a decision when my grandfather Sam New Breast passed away, and he told us he was going to pass away. But I made a decision at his celebration of life, because I'm not calling them funerals anymore, because I was writing the eulogy with my aunt Loretta Sitzi, they called her, and my other cousins, we were all writing. I was writing the eulogy, and then some of my other cousins, it hurt us because the way that they decided to cope was to drink alcohol, and I could just see the pain that rippled through that celebration of the life of my grandpa. Because he had, lived 87 years, and when I was looking I just said, Creator, please don't let me ever be that disrespectful. Please don't ever let me use alcohol to cope with my pain. Please, Creator, please. And that was kind of like, when you make a decision. When you make a decision, because shoot, you ask Creator that. When you ask Creator and you humble yourself and you get to that point where you say, please, I don't want to drink anymore. I don't never want to embarrass. I don't want to do this to my grandfather. That was the time that there was a shift, that there was a switching, a transformation. And that was when I shifted to, I would, because I'm an addict, and I am, and part of it's relapse, I was getting bad, and so my family intervened on me. They threw my butt in Betty Ford Center. That was my first treatment, and because they loved me. And then I tried hardest I could. I lasted 77 days out of that treatment, and I relapsed again, and so I checked myself in, and this is very important because in this transformation, you're going to have to check yourself into therapy, check yourself into ceremonies, check yourself into language classes, you're going to have to do it, because when I checked myself into that second treatment program, that was when I started to get that was the last time I used or drank. And everything they told me, because they knew, because you can't bullshit the bullshitter. My first counselor was a hardcore heroin addict, and Donna, she would tell me things like, dang, Theda, you got one foot in the past, like that's if you're only concentrating on the past, and you got one foot in the future, and you are pissing on the present. And she just said, you got to stay present. And so everything she told me, I did. And I knew they knew I needed longer, because you need to stay in treatment longer. And so you might have to go to treatment because of the pandemic. As codependents, I'm also an Al-Anon. We might have to go re-up for treatment. So anyway, I stayed in that second treatment program when they told me you got to stay longer. These are the words that came out of my mouth, because I had heard them from other ones who stayed sober long. And I heard this from this Aunt Melinda. I said, I'm willing to go to any length. I'm willing to go to any length to stay sober. And so I won't fight you. And so I'm asking you in this remaining time, the transformation, grab this 56 weeks, grab it. And it's okay if it was painful. It's okay if my colleague Jean Tagabon was just telling a story of phantom pain about one of his very good friends, a fisherman, who lost all 4 fingers in an accident, but he could still feel the pain. And that's like inside of us. Sometimes there's phantom pain. We get triggered. And we get triggered by what we see, what we smell, what we taste, what we hear, and by what we dream when we're sleeping. And so when it triggers the pain, grab it. Grab that pain. Embrace that pain. And don't try to run away from it or suck it up. Grab that pain. Grab it and feel it. And say to yourself, I'm going to walk through this pain. I'm going to feel this pain. I'm going to feel this frustration. I'm going to feel this grief, especially the grief, because the grief is as big as the love. You love your parents. You love your children. You love your grandparents. And when they go, you have to transform to grabbing on to that grief and feeling it fully. Crying with it fully. Letting it be in your gut, feeling it, and walk through that pain. Walk through that grief. And you don't have to do it by yourself. That's why we're doing these power hours. You don't have to walk through it by yourself. And maybe, if it's other support groups, like, man, all NWI is doing Native Wellness Zoom talking circles, Zoom support men circles, Zoom LGBTQ support. We're doing, you don't have to do it by yourself. And then think about this, because I was, I started with about our language and how you say God, a creator, in your language. Just learn that word. Whatever, find out what that word is. And, with my language class, I'm old school, so I put everything on flashcards, and I even have it in my vehicle so I could, I'm really concentrating on the word Mogakakinson, which means the backbone of the world, because that means the Rocky Mountains, because the Rocky Mountains and Nenastico Chief Mountain is the chief mountain there, and there's many stories about Chief Mountain. I live, it's right over here, so I walk by it every day. I've been trying to just ask the mountains to heal me. I've been just asking the mountains to caress the grief in my family. I've been asking the mountains to caress all of my tribal members, all of my co-workers. I've been asking that Mokakinson, and it's not coming to. So I use the flashcards. I learn how to say the word. They say if you say it 50 times, and even Morning Star, E.B. Watson, Morning Star. because I try to get up and pray to the morning star, and that's the routine of this transformation. But one night I was going to bed, and I was now don't laugh at me. One of the things I found, I had this little teddy bear. It's in my bedroom. But I was I have my little teddy bear, and as soon as I put that little teddy bear, it comforts me. But and I talked to that little teddy bear. I said, "Okay, little teddy bear, help me remember to say ibats ibats so sin, here morning star." And then I just went to sleep saying that in Blackfoot with my little teddy bear. And I guess I'm talking about transformation, because I have the rituals of going to sleep. I've really found new rituals of waking up, and even, getting ready to come to you today. So Native Wellness Institute, we're welcoming you to come on the journey of wellness and healing and intervention of your past. And so you can watch the Power Hour, you can sign up for our training, you can tailor training. A lot of people are getting hold of, Jolene Joseph, Shannon Kissinger, Shailene Joseph, our staff at the office, or any of our team members. Talk to them, because we're going to go on a retreat pretty soon, and we're redesigning some future hybrid, some on Zoom. We're looking at how we can do our service work to all the tribes, and our mission is to keep the teachings of our ancestors alive. So please, be in contact with us. Tell us what you need. I guess I'm going to honor. I look up and I go, ooh, what happened to that hour? And so that transformation, just do what you can each day, and then sleep. Just, take care of what you can, and don't have guilt of all the other things. Just do what's in front of you and your responsibilities. And forgive yourself, because in my transformation, I haven't been, part of the anxieties is we don't remember everything. So, I have to look on my phone to say, oh, what are my appointments today? But, just be good to yourself. Be, self-love. Just be good to yourself. Sleep good. Eat good. Don't be lonely. Get on Zoom. Make the phone calls. Write the letters. Get on, just do those things in your spiritual, in your transformation. Do the things that help you spiritually grow, that help you transform. And so with that, I'm going to say, Kitakito Matsuno. My ancestors and my grandpas and my grandmas that were fluent, that I grew up with, I noticed that they always spoke slowly. So Kitakito Matsuno. So that means I'll see you later. I will not say goodbye. And if you see me, I have 2 shots, 2 months. Please, and if you have 2 shots, 2 weeks, please give me a hug. I just want a hug. We don't even have to say no words. I just want to hug you. And let me hug you, and come up to me and say, Theda, I got 2 shots, 2 weeks, and let's hug. So until then, Kitakito Matsuno.